from a well, what before I get into that question, what were some of the other things that you saw just mechanic wise from the kids that were out there last night?
Hip mobility was one that you mentioned, especially with the older kids. Again, the younger kids don't really have much of an issue. A lot of it was it's the motor patterns. When we were doing some agility ladder stuff, a lot of them it has to be a conscious thought first. Where does my foot go? What's the pattern? Right now they're consciously competent is what we say. We want them to be unconsciously competent. We want them to be able to do it without having to think about it. You can go into the weight room and squat without having to think about it. These kids to do an agility ladder drill, it's still a thought process. So that was one thing, and the other thing was the movements that sometimes what sport coaches are teaching isn't necessarily what we would teach or what they should be doing. So if we're doing a side shuffle, for instance, a lot of basketball coaches want to have them open up their foot, pull with their heel, and drag to defend. We want them to stay on the balls of the feet. We want them to, stay in certain positions. And a lot of that, not that we're taking that away from the basketball side of things, but it has to be, it's just a basic motor pattern that they have to understand to get into, because as soon as you turn the hip and move it in any other direction, you're changing the mechanics. You're changing the way that if they have to jump, if they have to sprint, if they have to move another direction, they might not be in the best position possible. So it's teaching them how to get in the best position. So if I do ask you to jump and then sprint, are you able to do that? And that's what we finished with. We had them do some squat jumps and then sprint forward. So getting them to learn what the basic position is that they need to be in to be able to move in any direction on the field, on the court.
Well, it's easy to understand what the positive outcomes would be of them to have effective movement patterns as far as how they're going to participate in sport. Obviously, genetics and other factors and skills are still going to come into effect. What would be some of the negative consequences if they're participating in sports with them having poor movement patterns?
Injuries. The biggest thing, and we were going over that last night when I have them sprint and we have them stop. Learning how to stop and slow down is a skill that not a lot of people are really teaching. So if you're talking about putting them on a field, on a court with poor movement patterns, and they're in positions that their body's at a compromise, something's going to give at some point, whether it's a knee, an ankle, a hip, a ligament, something's going to end up going. And so if the pattern is ingrained for them to be in a certain position, to move and jump and run sideways and run backwards and backpedal and turn, they're going to know how to do it properly, and all the areas that need to be strong are going to be strong enough to do it. If not, something is going to give. And right now, injury rates are at an all-time high. I believe over 80% of injuries in sports are non-contact. So you're not even talking about getting hit with a football helmet. You're talking about a kid planting its foot into the ground, cutting and turning, and there goes a knee. So our goal in sports training with our athletic development program is to really get the movement pattern down so these kids can play for a long time, so they're not getting hurt. So we've had parents come to us with elbow injuries in 11-year-old kids because they're pitching 5 games in a weekend. So, and that shouldn't be happening at 11 years old. So a lot of that is, again, you talk about strength, you talk about motor patterns, you talk about mobility, you talk about all these areas that if one piece is missing, something's going to go. And these kids shouldn't be getting hurt at this young of an age. So our foundation is injury prevention.
From a psychological standpoint of coaching, how are you able to keep these kids from paying attention, engaged and paying attention and so forth? And I know a new person coming in, there's always going to be that factor as well, but it was far more than that. I mean, you were able to get the kids to actually coach each other and so forth. What skills do you use to be able to keep them engaged? It's something that you got to get on their level first and foremost. When you get on a kid's level and you speak their language
And, you know, I always tell kids, we're here to have fun, but we're here to work too. So engagement and letting them know that it's okay to have fun, but in the end, we need to stay focused, we need to work. Always asking them questions helps too. I want you guys to give me the answers. You tell me what you know. And that was the first thing I did when Matt brought him out. I said, tell me what you guys have learned so far. Million hands went up. So that helps to build the confidence in them that they already know what they're doing. All we're going to do now is just refine it. And I do that with kids that I've been working with for years now. It's, hey, tell me what you know. Great. Now we're going to fix that. We're going to work on that a little more today. The other part in getting them to coach each other is if they're not, they're screwing around. They're off, So if I have a group against the wall, the other kids are going to be goofing off, pushing each other, walking around, and anything that you can do to keep them engaged and involved. Mm-hmm. Plus, when I ask them to coach, hey, I need you to coach your partner, they feel like, wow, I actually know this stuff. I'm actually helping him out. And so it gives them that empowerment of, I know what I'm doing. So now if I give them the empowerment that you're smart enough to coach your friends, they feel that helps them. So then when it's their turn to get on the wall and do the wall drives, they feel confident and they're like, yep, I can do this. And then when they walk out onto the field, they feel even more confident because they know all aspects of what they're doing. They have the knowledge and they have the education. With kids that age, it's involvement in keeping them engaged, asking them questions, asking them to give you the answers. They're in school all day, and teachers are giving them answers. They're being taught at and talked to all day, and that's not fun to them anymore. I like to draw them out, draw the answers out of them, get them to talk, get them to speak, get them to help, get them to coach, get them to set up the ladders, get them to set up the hurdles. They feel involved and they feel like then this is their program. Mm-hmm. I'm just here facilitating. I'm just here helping out. You guys are the ones that are putting the work in. You're going to help each other get better. And that helps them be involved and have a sense of ownership in what they're doing.
Okay, now for the big question, the question that I prompted at the very beginning. As a parent of two young ones, what would you say, and I know this is going to be, and everybody should understand this is going to be, I guess the word would be a biased answer because it's going to be your own personal answer to this, and some people will agree, some people will disagree. But I'm interested as a parent in this. What would you feel is the number one biggest mistake parents are making with their kids in athletics? Speaking of this age group that we're talking about.
Parents these days, I think, are sometimes pushing their kids to do things that the kid might not be interested in doing. And, you have the dad who played football in college and just wants his kid to be athletic, and the kid isn't really athletic at this point, not that he can't be. And you can tell from the interaction that I have with the parent and that the parent has with the kid that there either is no interest, they feel the kid just feels like he's just being overpowered by the parent. I'm doing something that I really don't want to do. And when I see that and the kid is involved in our program, we need to now make this fun for him. Nowadays, I think there's a lot of parents are just stuffing their kids into too much, and it's overwhelming. They have hitting lessons, they have pitching lessons, they have piano lessons, they have after-school tutoring, they have all of this stuff, and then they bring them to us, which is great that they want their kid to be involved in our program, but now it's just one more thing that the kid feels like they're being dragged into. And they're already being harped on by their parents and their dad about practicing and this and hitting lessons and all of this stuff. So when they come to us, there has to be a sense of it's about fun, and it's about growing them as kids and growing their character. Trying to get, really dig down deep and get answers from the kid. And what, do you like football? Yeah, I like football. okay, so, but yeah, my dad, he's always yelling at me on the sidelines, and I can't, I just can't seem to be. So you really start to get a feel for what these kids are going through and what their thought process is. So for me, it's, you know what, let's just have fun today.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just make this fun. And I think that's just the biggest mistake is that parents at such a young age, they want their kid, well-meaning, they want their kid to do a lot of stuff and be successful. But when the kid is genuinely showing disinterest, you got to caution, because eventually the kid is something's going to happen. The kid's going to break away, the kid's going to rebel, the kid's going to whatever it is. And I try to find that middle ground of making it fun and making it not so much about being a drill sergeant and doing work. And then the other side of that too, what we see in our program is just the level of overweight kids that we have now too, and that parents just aren't catching it soon enough. And I mean, it's great that they come to us wanting help, but parents need to let kids play and let kids go outside and, get them, help them to find an interest. Don't get them involved in a sport if they don't like sports, but help them get involved in something that's going to, keep them busy, keep them occupied. And we had a young girl that came to us, and the mom said she just mindlessly sits in front of the TV and just eats. And I said, well, what does she like to do? Well, we talked about it. Said she needs to be involved doing something with her hands that she's busy, whether she likes to paint or draw or, make whatever it is that little girls want to do, but she needs to be involved in something with her hands that's keeping her mind busy and her hands active, so she's not mindlessly eating. And I think that really clicked with the mom to help her find something for her daughter to do, that's going to help her on the right track to getting healthy again. So.
All right. Well, this is Dave Tate with Julia Ladewski, and that's it.